Hello and welcome back to the Critical Thinking channel. Well, the first thing obviously I've got to say is I hope some of you, well, I know quite a lot of you watched the previous video which I recorded from Dr. Asim Malhotra's appearance on BBC News when he was talking about statins, and then he dropped that sort of explosive truth bomb about the vaccine. Well, we're not hearing much about it in the mainstream media, and the reason this was so explosive is because what he actually was highlighting is that a lot of people don't know is in 2022, which is 2 years after the 2 years we were in a pandemic, the excess deaths from other causes were still really high. In fact, higher than in the pandemic itself. And what doctors like Dr. Asim are trying to suggest is that we ask questions basically. Well, science, as some of you know, it's all about it's constant questioning of the evidence. It's repeating studies to see if they come up with the same answer. It's all about checking, in double checking basically, and using a little bit of critical thinking and skepticism. Now, what skepticism in science is, it's about like looking at one. If you look at one result, you think, well, that was one result. So, okay, you're gonna sort of think, well, let's see what the next one says before we decide we're going to believe that one. Yeah, that's just having skepticism. That's natural, and we should have skepticism in everything. Like when we hear on the news, oh, scientists have made this discovery, blah blah blah. It's the first study and it's the first thing. It's the first time it's come out. We should have skepticism about it. So all that Dr. Hassim was saying, and what was so explosive about it is he was the first person to make it through to the mainstream to say we need to ask questions about all these excess deaths. I mean, none of us know what it is, but it is very vitally important that we ask the question. We had 2 years where when this many people were dying, we had two lockdowns. 2 years of lockdowns. I can't remember, and they broke up and they started again. We had 2 years where we had lockdowns because so many people were dying, and we were told that, like, we must protect the NHS, etc., etc. Well, things are just as bad now, and yet there's no lockdown. I mean, we really need to ask these questions. Asking questions does not make anyone an anti-vaxxer, but the people who don't want questions asked, they are anti-science, because science is all about questioning. There's a very a well-known saying. I can't remember the exact words of it, but it says, "The truth doesn't mind being questioned. A lie doesn't like to be challenged." So it's worrying. Why is no one allowed to ask this question? So that was, what the video was about, the previous video where quite a few of you watched. I think it's around 400 or 500, something like that. So anyway, but I didn't want to spend the whole time today just talking about, all the worrying things in the world. I wanted to go on a bit more. Well, firstly, I want to explain that the reason I'm doing these videos is because I've been kind of watching other people online for a few years, especially Dr. John Campbell, and yeah, I'm really impressed that they do challenge the narrative, the media narrative, and I suppose it made me think, well, do you know what? That's something I'd like to do, because I'm often watching television, as maybe a lot of you out there are, and I'm thinking, that's a load of nonsense, or I can't believe that's ridiculous, And also I see how we hear one side of the story, and I think, well, I know that not to be true because I know the other side of that story. And I thought, well, how many people don't know the other side of the story and just taking that for granted because that's what they're being told on the television? And it's all of those sort of things that made me, want to get into sort of social media, I suppose, and start talking about the other side of things, because I think it's really important that people question. that we don't just, do things without or believe stuff without question, because it's sort of a dangerous road. It leads to a dangerous road. Anyway, I wanted to also talk about positive ways that critical thinking can help you. It can help you in everyday life. So critical thinking, if you get a letter from your energy company saying we're going to have to put your bill up to this, blah, 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 whatever, don't just think, oh, yeah, I saw it on the news. Yeah, I've got to accept that. You can go on these websites where you can compare what each company is charging, and you can find yourself a cheaper deal. And you can do that with every single utility bill, whether it's water. Well, actually, water is a bit different because you're trapped by something. But phone bills, landlines, or getting your or internet connection. I can't think broadband. That's the one. Anyway, yeah. So getting broadband, things like that. You can check all of these things, and you can pay a lot less. It's a bit like going online. Everyone goes to Amazon or get it on Amazon. Yeah. Don't go to Amazon. But if you want to buy something and it's branded, look at the company. Go straight direct to the company. I bought my laptop, and I looked on Amazon. It was about £1,000, and then I went and looked straight to the company. It was £850, and it was really the one that I wanted, that did all the things that I needed. And that's £150 saving from Amazon. So don't just limit yourself to one thing. Think outside the box. Think for yourself. Think independently, and think critically. Thinking critically can really, really help you in positive ways. Right. So that's one thing I've gone through. Right. Now I want to discuss very quickly the worrying government, the UK government's new bill, which is going to go through, and it's basically like a snooper's charter for government, for the state. So they can now, if this law passes, they're giving the police powers to basically, I don't know exactly what the word of it is called, but they're giving powers to look at you and go, I think that person's going to commit a crime, so I'm going to arrest them. So you're going to be arrested for a crime you've not yet done. I mean, this is where we're reaching. It's very, very worrying, because they're giving the police powers to arrest people on the suspicion that they might be going to a protest. Now, I don't know if anyone's noticed. I hope they have, but this government is probably the most corrupt and incompetent in British history, if not, well, it's definitely in my lifetime, and definitely anything I've looked at in the past. There's not been so much corruption, PPE, nonsense, and all the rest of it, and billions going. I mean, a recent article I shared was about a pest control company. They had £18,000 in assets, and they got a PPE contract for 350 million. Mind blowing. I mean, where this money's been going. I mean, where I'd love to know who owns these little companies that were set up, and got these huge contracts, and where the money's going. It's just mind blowing. I mean, but this is, we need to be aware of this. We can't just keep sitting back and going, oh well, the government's corrupt. It's never going to change, because of course it never changed. We all need to be writing to our MPs about, these things, about the corruption, for instance. This bill, well, there's one thing we can all do. We could all write to our MP about this bill. If you go online, you can, just Google "write to my MP in the UK" or something, and it will take you to the site, and you can write them a letter and say, I really don't like this authoritarian dystopian bill that you're trying to bring through to stop people, going to a protest before they've even gone to it. That it's like the assumption that every protest is going to turn into some sort of violence, etc. 99.999% recurring protests do not turn into violence. Yeah. So nearly every single one does not. It's very, very rare that you do get any violence or problems at a protest. In fact, there's more violence at other events like the Notting Hill Carnival or big festivals. That's the fact. So yeah, critical thinking, just paying attention really to what's going on in our government and the world, because these things affect all of our lives. Politics is everything. It's about the safety of your food, your children's education, your health. It's every single aspect of your life. It's not just something that's there, that's an irritation, that's over. We all need to pay attention, and it's vitally important, and it's never been more important than right now. I shall go into some more positive aspects of everyday life where critical thinking can help you in some of the future talks, but just wanted to update there a bit about that one. But before I go, I just want to say, yes, I'm not very professional at this. I've never done anything like this in my life before. So I just feel like I want to get my voice out there. I want to contact with other people. So if you're someone that thinks about these things, that worries about these things, concerned about these things, concerned about where the world's going, why we've, seem to have the last decade, we seem to have gone from a very normal country to sort of a basket case of Europe. And, we're sort of more like the Americans sort of mess in that sort of mess now. We're sort of like, crazy, nonsense and lies and, the classic Trump line, alternative facts, which the conservatives seem to be in this country seem to be pumping out every 5 minutes, some ridiculous, opposite of truth. Like the NHS has never received more funding. And then when you look at the chart funding, it's literally, going down. So it's the opposite of truth. It's like, very dystopian. We all know about George Orwell, 1984, the Ministry of Truth, which I always now call number 10. It's just, it's very, very worrying. But people like us, we all need to come together. This is what I'm hoping. I can get a collection of people together, like-minded, that are thinking, that are questioning, got the scientific method, a sort of way of looking at life. And then, we can change the world. I mean, it's not within the realms of out of the realms of possibility. I mean, you look at famous people. Well, they're famous now. They weren't at the time. But Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. They're just one individual, and they changed the world. But they probably had a small group of people around them that believed in them, and that they came together, and together they changed the world. It can be done, and never stop believing that the world can be better, because it really, really can. With that, speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye bye.